Hello, in this video we're looking at an endgame build for the Black Mage, and there's going to be some timestamps in the description to jump around, and for the most part, if you've watched either the Sage or the Mage video, you have already seen pretty much what I'm about to do, but we'll talk about it as if you hadn't watched those videos, and you were just only interested in the Black Mage. So we can go about the Black Mage in two different ways, but the way I'm going to go about it in this video is I'm using the Dark Lord so that uh, if I do need to dodge or blink out of the way, that my cast gauge does not go down and that I'm just maybe a single button press away from casting my next spell. But the Flare Star is also very great uh, if you know you're going to destroy the enemy, or you can keep the enemy in place, or you have enough survivability so that if the enemy gets one hit through, that you're going to survive. And on our build, we do not have that. So we're not using the Flare Star uh, on this particular build. Pardon me. Ooh, pardon me. Now, for our job affinities, we have the Dark Mage, sorry, Black Mage. Um, we have that past 800% because all the stats we get, sorry, this is an endgame version of it. All the stats we get start to turn into Intellect for us, and that really helps out. And then we also have the Sage, where the extra after 800% also turns the extra job affinity also turns into extra intellect and a little bit of spirit, and that spirit helps us accumulate an elemental vulnerability on the enemy if we're using an elemental spell, like fire, thunder. And then we have on our accessory, we have the Hermes Sandal, Sovereign of the Skies, where it's the Dragoon 400%, where it also, sorry, let me back up. It increases your attack speed during Lightbringer, Chaosbringer, Dimensionbringer, and that attack speed is also your casting animation speed. So it's reducing both the time it takes to charge up your spell, and it also speeds up the actual animation so that you get back into a neutral position to start casting your next spell a little quicker. So we want that, or at least I do. And then across our gear, while we're here, we have, for the most part, damage dealt Black Magic, charge time reduction Black Magic, Intellect, Intellect being the most important thing here, in my opinion, of all the stuff that's going on. During Lightbringer damage dealt, and then the next highest damage dealt that you can find that you can take advantage of consistently. And in this case, I just settled for magic damage dealt. Now, on every piece of gear except for one, I happen to have remove to bring out the raw intelligence of the job. So a job that doesn't have as much intelligence, say like the regular mage, they're getting 200 less out of all of this is both a combination of the Black Mage and the remove hitting them, but they're just not getting as much intellect out of the job. And then if you try to use a job that doesn't have very much intellect to begin with, I'm sorry, I'm like choosing white mage on this one or red mage. Those jobs just don't get as much intellect. So 200 of that intellect is not there because of master points, and then the rest is just not there because they just don't get the intellect. But they do get a lot of spirit, and that's very important for them. I digress. Let's look at this. So we have remove, but we don't really want remove's effect for our caster because this doesn't our spells don't count as combo abilities. So instead, we have a shield that's not consuming as much of our stats in terms of allocation. And it's Phoenix, so that if we do die, we don't die too hard. We have a chance to maybe like, hey, I'm alive. And if depending on the flow of combat, that might give us a chance to use another Chaos Bringer, or if we're in the Rift, a chance to use a High Ether or a Mega Ether or Elixir or Mega Elixir to kind of get back on our feet and get the offense going again. And I do have status ailment across my gear and master points, or the class, not the master points, across my uh, Ultima and Evocation classes, so that I can reach 100% status ailment resistance to avoid silence, so that I can still keep casting, paralysis and petrification, so I can still keep moving, and then personally, I just like having it also to avoid slow, so that I get to move a little bit faster, because slow is not very fun. And then just whatever highest damage delts you can find across your gear, stacking them up on this particular route. It is possible to do a Black Mage that's specialized on break damage, but on this route we're going to be focused on the HP damage. Let's see. On our command abilities, we have teleport, so that we can try to escape and move around to get a safe cast off. We have barrage, even though we don't have very much agility. The extra damage is just gonna help. And then we have Lunatic to increase your attack speed, which is also your casting speed animation, and also reducing the charge time of your spells just a little bit. And then we have the Chaos Bringer that reduces all of your MP cost to 0. And we're not using it for the break damage, but it could help with the break damage route. The drawback here that it doesn't seem to mention is that you cannot build max MP unless you soul burst the enemy. So they absolutely need to be soul bursted, and that's where our second job comes into play. And I realize that we have something like Riot Magic, increased MP limit based on magic damage dealt. Unfortunately, during Chaos Bringer, that has no effect as of October 27th, 2022, and onward, which is the time that you're watching this video. Uh, unless you're a time traveler, in which case, let me know. So we have on our second job, still not optimized, and oh my gosh, there was something I told viewers I was going to look up before the next video, and I'm realizing it now, and I don't want to re-record this video, but I'm going to keep going, and maybe I can look it up on the spot. Oh no. So we have the monk here, and the monk is here because we're going to get back to that soul burst part, the part about building up your max MP, but the monk is here so that we can charge up your damage. Even though the monk's focus says increases the break damage, it also impacts your regular damage. So the tooltip should have been updated um, to include regular damage. We're choosing Master because you can charge up to the 4th stage and get even more regular damage out of this, which really helps out the magic damage and break damage builds. And then, so that's why we chose Monk Master for the supercharge. And then we have things to help out with the Soul Burst MP recovery, even though this build is still missing stuff because it is for a different, it's a monk for a different job, and I just still haven't optimized it for Chaos Bringer jobs, which is kind of scary. So we have Void Knight 120% and 50% so that you increase your MP limit boost rate, which will help out when you Soul Burst. You get more max MP that way. And then we have the Summoner 600%, which by itself isn't doing anything, but I'm sorry, other than just raw stats that we're not using. But it says the potency of your primary summon's blessing, it increases it, in this case by twice. Now, on my gear, I don't actually have Leviathan because I do or did have a Leviathan badge that had perpetual blessing, perpetual Leviathan's primary blessing. And so now I theoretically am benefiting from both Carbuncle and Leviathan Primary Blessing, and the Leviathan Primary Blessing increases the max MP and MP recovery you receive when you Soul Burst an enemy, and I am effectively doubling that with Summoner 600%. Just the Leviathan part, not my Soul Burst MP recovery. Ideally, because this is a Chaos Bringer build, I would have switched the Evoker out for Breaker 120% to get even more max MP when I Soul Burst, but I didn't. And then just talking about the rest of our affinities for now, at least the ones that we're going to benefit from. On the world map, we have either world map, co-op, or if your Rift resets, uh, we have the Summoner 120% and 50% so that when you chain cancel, you get some max MP back. And then we have the Gambler 120%, 50% so that when you chain cancel, you get a random amount of regular MP back based on your luck. This isn't super reliable, though the more luck you have, the better off you are with it. And then because we're on Monk, we have the Red Mage 250% so that when we're squatting, we don't squat as long and we charge up a little bit faster. Then I happen to have Paladin 400% because status ailments suck, and I wanted to free up room on my gear for Lightbringer duration and other stuff like that. The Cyclic Warrior, we're not really benefiting too much from, but something that does help is the Cyclic Warrior 400% so that when we Soul Burst an enemy, and we will, on the Monk, we get a little bit of Chaos Bringer duration back, and maybe sometimes that's just enough to reapply a Teleport or a Lunatic or a Barrage and just start teleporting away for the next 20 to 40 plus seconds. Oh, I'm sorry, and one more thing here. Just for my own convenience, I have Samurai 250% so that when I do chain cancel, I get a damage boost on my Black Mage for about 5 seconds. And then as a little minor bonus, my focus doesn't cost as much to chain cancel because I'm reducing the MP cost just a little bit. Not too much though. On our gear, we have improved effect focus to bring out the supercharge or the focus, bring out that damage even more. Uh, and then we have improved effect barrage so that that helps us maybe just deal more damage in general. Again, not too much due to having low agility, but it helps. Then we have the Lightbringer duration stacked up so that when we use Chaosbringer on our monk, that we have a longer duration. Even if we are only working with 2 bars, we have a longer duration. But ideally, if we're working with like a full set of bars, we're going to have a much longer duration and maybe even take out a boss 2 or 3 off of a single Chaos Bringer. But we'll find out. No, we won't. Not in this video. Buff duration. We have that so that we don't... sorry. So that we don't spend as much time reapplying buffs, even though when we're waiting for bosses to spawn, we might still just like, hey, I'm gonna just buff everything. Buff all the things. And then we have Soul Burst MP recovery, so that we get more max MP back when we Soul Burst a boss, or just enemies in the Rift. And hopefully that gets us back to being able to use another Chaos Bringer. And then I happen to have Carbuncle across my gear because I wanted more luck for Gambler 120%, pardon me, in times where I chain cancel. Now, another thing that I have is just sometimes I have luck instead of Soul Burst MP recovery, and that's because this build was not designed for Chaos Bringer specifically. I'm sorry, this monk was not specifically designed for Chaos Bringer. But I do happen to have some things that do help out with this type of build. Now the accessory, if you're looking for more damage, you have this Lump of Pure Envy or the Water Prayer from Kraken or Chaos Kraken, either one. And that enemy ability, Inky Envy, lets you, we'll call it, apply a debuff on the enemy that is effectively a damage multiplier. So not a break damage, but an HP damage multiplier, physical or magic, and it lasts about 15 seconds no matter what. So that's a pretty good advantage for this enemy ability. But you might not see me apply it because I just think the bosses are probably going to die before this becomes worthwhile. But you still might see me throw it on just for giggles. Now, master points, we are looking here. We have Black Mage, we have the Intellect, we have the Black Mage job affinity. My case, I tried to squeeze in some agility because I thought maybe that'll help with Barrage, but it might be pretty negligible. Skipping down the category 3, we have during Lightbringer damage dealt, and we barely have any status ailment resistance because I think at some point I thought I just need one more to get 100%. And then the rest of this we have it on, pardon me, ability damage dealt, because this is the damage dealt we can consistently take advantage of compared to maybe being at max HP. We're not near death, even though we're only one hit away from death on this difficulty. We're not always exploiting an enemy's weakness, or they might be dead by the time we do. They're not always afflicted with a status ailment. Unfortunately, none of the magic, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Magic, Black Magic, White Magic, Magic Sigil, and Chain Spell do not count as charge attack damage, or charge attacks for damage dealt or break damage dealt purposes. Blue Magic does, but not the other ones that I just mentioned. However, they are still impacted by Reinforce command and the Red Mage 250% command. That reduces charge time, that still counts. So it's kind of in a weird spot in terms of like why is it worded that way. So next we have our monk, where we have, because we're using Gambler 120%, we have luck stacked up. But the three things that we're really looking at are Lightbringer duration, so that our Chaos Bringer lasts longer, Soul Burst MP recovery, so that we do get more MP when we max MP when we Soul Burst. Pardon me. And then we have the increased MP limit boost rate, so that we get even more max MP when we Soul Burst. And then we have the buff duration, so that we're not on Monk as often. Looking at our allies, we have them as stat sticks, where they are giving us 12% of their stats thanks to Liberator 600%, even if those stats do not show up on the UI. And I apologize for anyone that might have watched multiple of my videos and like, why does he keep going over the same things? It's under the assumption that someone isn't watching all the other videos, and they just come across the one video and stick to it. That is why we repeat a lot of the content, or the explanations. Is that, yeah, not everyone will watch all the core videos that lead up to why these are important. So Liberator, even that explanation is going to be lost in the next video. Liberator, getting 12% of the stats, and now I'm just trying to squeeze out as much intellect out of my NPCs. In this case, Sage 800% and higher, Black Mage 800% and higher, just kind of stacking that up across my gear. But the other thing is, they only give me their stats while they're alive. And so that's where the Lionheart accessory will come in, where they get invincible, they take no HP damage while you press D-pad left or right. And this is the part of the video where I do absolutely need to make good on my word and find out what the friggin' keystroke was to do the D-pad left and right for the allies. So that will be RNT. Yes, yes. I'm a stranger of my word. No, I'm not. That is an absolute lie. Do not listen to me. R and T, either D-pad left or right, or if you're playing on keyboard, R or T, to send your allies into a little bit of a frenzy. And during that time, they have the Resonance going, and Resonance is like Lightbringer for them. So for 20 to 50 seconds, they will not be killed, or they won't. They can't be defeated. And when I say 50 seconds, I mean stacking Lightbringer duration across all of their gear, so that that resonance, that D-pad left right RT, that lasts even longer. Now, on their gear, they pretty much have Lightbringer Duration, Intellect, and Spirit. The Intellect and Spirit they're sharing with me, and the Lightbringer Duration is to help keep them alive longer. And ideally, they would all have Remove just to get even more Intellect brought out. Now, the other heads up here is that I am picking the Sage job because uh, Black Mage would also be a good fit. I get less Spirit, but I still get the same amount of intellect. But mage and some of the other jobs, they don't give anywhere as much intellect, and so to me that matters because Jack is going to be doing all the work for the most part. Sorry, uh, I don't think I flashed through all my gear though, so just full disclosure, flashing through that gear. Whoops, I'm not even on the right Sophia. Shoot, I really need to change that one up. Um, And then I happen to have MP cost, magic sigil, and charge time magic sigil, just so that the hope is that that Sophia might actually cast haste and other spells that might just help me out, and maybe even take out lesser enemies too. And then your second NPC is either could either be Ash on Tyrant because he gets more intellect on Tyrant, or Jed on Ninja because he gets more intellect on this job. And the Ninja also helps because you get the agility, and that agility might help out with Barrage, or not might, does help out with Barrage, but how much remains to be seen. So we're going to try just the. I'm going to throw in a little bit of a teaser for a version of this build that we're not doing. Uh-oh, my controls are all messed up. Oh, darn it. Shoot. Okay, there we go. So, Flare Star. We're not using Flare Star on this, but I am going to show what it would be like, oh, if you do have Flare Star. And it could be great for regular enemies because they're not going to last long enough to make a major issue. I will go over the routine of, like, what do we do to get started here. And that's kind of how this could go. Oops. Oh, I'm still in Lightbringer. Not Lightbringer, Chaosbringer. And just kind of like that, except that it gets a little dicey and a little risky sometimes. So this is not the Flare Star build, and there's better ways to do the Flare Star than what I just did. Uh, but let's see here. Let's switch to the other mage for a moment. Uh, and then let me go to. Let's pick on Tiamat because it's Tiamat. And the routine, our startup routine, is going to be we Chaos Bringer. I'm sorry, we switch to Monk. We Chaos Bringer. We cast Lunatic and Teleport. So more speed, the ability to dodge for survival. And if we have time, we try to use focus and build that focus up. And then ideally, we use Barrage and maybe even Inky Envy and Chain Cancel out of that. We're not going to be using Inky Envy as much as I'd like to do that. And then on our mage, or black mage, we could theoretically, um, Like right now, my Meteor is fully booked. It's ready to go for this next uh, spell, or at least it would have been. It's not now. So also, we're gonna D-pad left or right, or press the R and T in order to activate our allies and get their invincibility going. Now, ideally, I should chain cancel my way up, but we're going to try to just see what happens. We do have the trial set to uncomfortably high levels. We would not normally set it this high, but just sort of, we'll call it floor 300 practice. Uh, so, even though floor 300, you'd actually have Phoenix Downs, High Ethers, Mega Ethers, Elixirs, all this other stuff, if you actually decide to go that far. Which, in this case, if you're watching this video, the hope is that you would be going that far, because this video wouldn't make as much sense or incentive before that point. So I'm going to do the Chaos Bringer Lunatic, teleport, do the focus or supercharge, and then try to get a barrage going, chain cancel just for giggles, start casting Meteor, hope that she doesn't kill me before that Meteor extincts the last dinosaur, and then just she down, switch to Monk, Soul Burst her, and then we're probably going to do a little bit of a chain cancel and start casting Meteor even before she spawns. As mean as this sounds, so we got a bunch of Meteors going, and we're just mean. We're just mean at this point. So, again, picking on, we don't even let the numbers finish. So mean. So mean. Also, the reason why we could assemble this build so quickly is because we did the Sage. I don't know when I'm actually posting this. I think hopefully it all processes tonight, but by the time, this might be like days after I post the Sage video, but we'll see. Now, I could do the guided. Actually, I will do the guided so that you get to see two bosses that don't stagger as easy or without certain conditions, even though the second boss is going to be bullied here. So, Lunatic, teleport. I'm going to do barrage this time. Focus all the way up. Chain cancel. Start doing this. Start casting a Meteor even before things happen. And I trust those times where it's like, I'm going to stand still. And then we go and just hurt them. But we do need to do a Chaos Bringer. Reapply some of our defensive stuff. And just hope that these meteors actually land on someone. Astos! And then we just start kicking the crap out of Neon and punch her in the face. Oh, I get punched. Alright. Let's reapply some buffs. I feel like Astos is going to spawn here. Let's just start casting. Whoops. And this poor dude. But at least, again, it's not a Thundaga. I say again because, but yeah, we're going to chain cancel to get some damage boost. Start casting Meteor before anyone starts suspecting anything. Then reapply Barrage while they're just dying. Ideally, I should have waited for my Chaos Bringer to run out so that I don't have to think about it during this next boss fight. But now I'm thinking about it. Why'd you say it, Ben? And then I'm just going to start casting Meteors because why not? Don't forget to reapply your resonance on your allies, because I do forget until they die. Watch out for ballet. Wrong spell. Oh, we do Meteor because it's fun. Even though he leaps towards us with great speed. Okay, sorry, there's like Ultimas and Meteors coming down. Kick him in the groin and start punching him in the faces. All his faces. And then we say, mine. And then we just absorb his power into our chest. Sophia. 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 I'm sorry, what am I doing? Uh, so yeah, let's look at the Rift monsters real quick, and then we'll call it, and we will try not to go into a. Oh my gosh, 30 minutes! Crap, what was I doing? Okay, Discord. Uh, so monsters in the Rift, we have, and see, we haven't actually like used the mage build in the Rift. uh, monsters in the Rift, we have the horse for intellect, the floating eye for intellect, the behemoth for damage dealt to bosses, the bomb for damage dealt to bosses, and coral just to help out with increased monster quest efficiency. Now, even though there's other reasons why we could have them out, like the job affinities, those absolutely do help. More intellect, maybe even like we'll call it rift based builds if you have control of the host monsters and all that good stuff. Those absolutely help. But for now, we are focusing on the intellect and then the damage dealt to bosses, just so that the bosses do die a little bit faster. But we are going to wrap up because we are past the 30-minute mark. But yeah, oh, I'm sorry. And the other thing is, before you go into a rift, if you can help it, drink a mega ether or a high ether. But as you kind of saw with this, that I more or less started off a boss and just could finish a soul burst phase in a sing. I'm sorry, I can finish a phase in the single Chaos Bringer, and then even with a slow spell like Meteor, you can speed things up by casting Thandaga, Quagga, uh, Firaga if they're charging directly at you, things like that. But not Blizzaga. That does take a while to actually execute for some reason. Anywho, you could potentially do Chaos Bringer, start that off, finish off the enemies, and then have a lot of MP going for those particular those bosses until you have enough gil to just buy. I'm sorry, until you can buy the ethers from this elf regularly. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound so condescending when I said this elf. But yeah, I digress. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps. Just uh, uh, wanted to also get the casters done. I'll probably do Red Mage next as a caster, just so that we can say we've gotten like all four casters, all the big casters out of the way. Oh, sorry, that sounds so mean. Anyway, we'll stop it before I keep saying something stupid. Stupider.